Tinder was a name I gave the world, only for the world to try and erase me from its history. I was 24 when they stole my title, but they didn't realize I was keeping score. My ex-boyfriend thought he could strip my title and throw me to the wolves after I built his empire. He was wrong. This is how I turned his betrayal into a billion-dollar revenge. In 2012, I was just 24, working out of a cramped startup incubator in Los Angeles. When our first project crashed, we pivoted to a dating app, and I was the one who actually named it Tinder. I spent my days on the road, hitting college campuses and pitching to sororities to build our first real user base. I wasn't just an employee, I was a co-founder who laid the very bricks of a cultural phenomenon, working around the clock to make us a viral sensation. My life changed forever in February 2013 when I started dating my direct manager and fellow co-founder, Justin Mateen. At first, our romance felt like a natural part of that high-pressure startup life, but by the end of the year, everything had soured. Justin became a different person, vicious, erratic, and intensely jealous. He couldn't separate his bruised ego from the office, turning our workplace into a daily nightmare. He used his power as chief marketing officer to systematically isolate me from the team I helped build. He began undermining my authority at every turn, aggressively trying to diminish my contributions to the app's explosive success. It was a toxic battleground where my reward for hard work was public humiliation and private threats. I watched the man I once trusted use his executive position to try and destroy my professional standing. I was trapped in a cycle of harassment, realizing too late that the very foundation I helped create was being used as a weapon against me. The office felt less like a tech success story and more like a cage, where my every move was scrutinized by a man who wanted me gone. The final betrayal came when Justin formally stripped me of my co-founder title. His excuse was pure poison. He told me to my face that having a female founder made the company look like an accident. He was literally erasing me from the history of the brand I named. I had no choice but to fight back. On the 30th of June 2014, I filed a sexual harassment lawsuit against Tinder and its parent company. I didn't just make claims. I attached a massive collection of his threatening, vicious text messages as proof. I was exposing the dark side of the Silicon Valley Golden Boys for the whole world to see. If you want to see more of these deep dives into the founders who refuse to be silenced, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now so you don't miss the rest of this journey. My lawsuit was a desperate cry for justice, but I wasn't prepared for how the world would react. Instead of support, I was met with a horrifying wave of backlash that showed me exactly how society treats women who dare to speak up against powerful men. I thought the truth would set me free, but instead, I became the target of a ruthless, coordinated campaign of online hate. That summer of 2014 was the darkest time of my life. My inbox was a sewer of graphic threats, and the media picked apart my personal life like vultures. The weight of it was suffocating. I started having these paralyzing panic attacks and felt a deep, constant paranoia every time I looked at a screen. I eventually deleted my Twitter, packed what I could, and retreated to my boyfriend's family home in rural Texas just to breathe again. I had lost my company, my title, and my reputation in one fell swoop. I was a casualty of the Silicon Valley Boys Club, and the industry expected me to just fade away into the background. I spent my days in that quiet house, nursing my wounds and terrified of the very internet I had helped shape. I felt completely isolated, a broken individual crushed by a massive corporation. But in the silence of that Texas heat, something small began to change inside me. I wasn't ready to let them win. Surrounded by the ruins of my career, I felt a tiny ember of defiance starting to catch fire. They wanted me gone, but they didn't realize I was just getting started. I was hiding out in Texas when an unexpected lifeline arrived in my inbox. It was an unsolicited email from Andrei Andreev, the notoriously reclusive Russian billionaire who founded Badoo. He had seen the headlines about my exit from Tinder, and he recognized the raw talent behind the brand. He wanted to meet. At first, I was highly skeptical because I did not trust anyone in the tech world anymore. But during a layover in London on my way to Paris, I finally agreed to sit down with him. I walked into that meeting with my guard all the way up, ready to deliver a blunt ultimatum. I looked the billionaire straight in the eye and told him, "Dream on, I am not for hire." I made it clear that I was starting my own company. And I absolutely did not want to be in the dating space ever again. I pitched him an idea for a female-focused social network centered around compliments, a direct response to the bullying I had endured. But Andreev saw a different angle. He did not just see a victim, he saw a brilliant marketer who understood the dating market better than anyone alive. He knew I possessed the exact insight needed to disrupt the very industry that had chewed me up and spit me out. He was not looking for an employee. He was looking for a partner to build a weapon. September 2014 brought two massive shifts that changed the trajectory of my life forever. First, the Tinder lawsuit quietly settled for roughly $1 million. But the most crucial detail of that settlement was not the money. It was a glaring omission that changed everything. In their sheer arrogance, Tinder's legal team failed to include a non-compete clause in the paperwork. They essentially handed me the legal freedom to build a rival empire right under their noses. That very same month, over cocktails in a dimly lit London bar, Andreev made his counterpitch. He offered to provide the initial infrastructure, engineering talent, and massive financial backing if I would just apply my female-first social network concept to a dating app. The revelation hit me like a lightning bolt. What if I did not just run away from the dating world? What if I completely rewired it from the inside out? I realized that the bullying and toxicity I faced were not just bugs in the system. They were features of a broken dating culture where women were constantly forced onto the defensive. I realized I could build a platform where women held all the power, where they were the ones who made the first move. I was not just going to start a new business, I was going to build the anti-Tinder, a direct existential threat to the company that had tried to erase my name from history. Building Bumble was anything but a smooth ride. The tech industry is notoriously brutal, and the dating app market seemed completely locked down by the very giant I had helped create. When word leaked that I was launching a new app, the skepticism from the public was deafening. Critics dismissed it as a bitter vanity project, a spiteful endeavor doomed to fail before it even launched. Early user acquisition was incredibly difficult because the app required a massive cultural shift. Asking women to make the first move went against decades of deeply ingrained societal dating norms, and it felt like I was fighting an uphill battle against human nature itself. Many of our early users found the interface confusing, and the initial match rates were alarmingly low. Investors who caught wind of the project whispered behind my back that I was too traumatized, too emotional to run a real company. The pressure was mounting, and the initial metrics were terrifyingly sluggish. It looked as though the critics might actually be right. My bold plan for revenge was stalling out on the launch pad, and I was burning through my initial capital at a rate that kept me up every single night. If I could not figure out how to convince women to fundamentally change how they interacted with men online, Bumble would collapse, and I would be proven a failure once and for all. I realized quickly that I had to go back to my roots if I wanted to survive. I could not rely on expensive digital marketing campaigns or flashy PR stunts. I had to do exactly what I did to build Tinder in the early days: pure guerrilla marketing. I packed my bags and hit the road, visiting college campuses, sorority houses, and local bars across the country. I handed out yellow merchandise, hosted massive parties, and personally explained the empowering philosophy behind Bumble to thousands of young women. I pitched it not just as another dating app, but as a feminist movement, a safe haven from the unsolicited aggression found on every other platform. It was a moral dilemma for me at times, using my own story of harassment to sell a product, but I knew it was the only way to build something that mattered. Slowly but surely, that relentless groundwork started to pay off. Women loved the control. They loved the safety. The narrative began to shift from a story of a victim seeking revenge to a story of an innovator solving a fundamental flaw in the internet's social fabric. I was finally taking the power back, one download at a time. As Bumble's user base began to multiply exponentially, the genius of my design became apparent to everyone. By forcing women to make the first move, I had entirely eliminated the spammy, aggressive messages that plagued Tinder. I had weaponized the very harassment I suffered, turning the solution into my unique selling proposition. The timing was absolutely perfect. The cultural zeitgeist was shifting, women were demanding safer online spaces, and Bumble was positioned perfectly to catch the wave. Word of mouth spread like wildfire. Millions of users started migrating away from the swipe factory of Tinder, seeking the curated, respectful environment of the hive. I was not just competing anymore, I was actively siphoning off Tinder's most valuable demographic. I expanded the app to include Bumble BFF for friendships and Bumble Biz for professional networking, proving that my female-first ecosystem could dominate every aspect of social connection. I am curious, do you think a platform specifically for women is the future of the internet? Drop your thoughts in the comments. But here is the thing about success. It attracts the attention of the people who tried to destroy you. The trap was fully set, and the executives at my former company were finally waking up to the massive threat growing in their blind spot. Panic began to set in at Tinder's headquarters. The company that once dismissed me as an accident was now watching me eat their market share alive. In a desperate attempt to neutralize the threat, Tinder's parent company, Match Group, tried to buy Bumble outright. They offered me a staggering $450 million just to make me go away. It was a life-changing amount of money, an offer most founders would have instantly accepted. But I was not building this just for a quick payout. I flatly rejected the offer. Furious, Match Group tried again, raising the bid to well over $1 billion. Again, I said no. I knew my company was worth more, and I knew the psychological toll it was taking on the men who had ousted me. When they could not buy me, they resorted to aggressive litigation, suing Bumble for patent infringement and claiming we had copied their swiping mechanism. It was a clear intimidation tactic, a desperate attempt to crush the rival they had inadvertently created. If you are following along with this journey of reclamation, make sure to subscribe so you do not miss how I handled their legal war. I was finally ready to show them what happens when you underestimate the wrong person. I didn't back down. I wasn't going to hide behind a wall of expensive lawyers while they tried to bleed me dry. Instead, I took the fight exactly where they least expected it, the public stage. I decided to humiliate them in the most prestigious way possible. I took out a massive, full-page advertisement in the New York Times, a literal open letter addressed directly to Match Group. It was a masterclass in corporate defiance, and I enjoyed every second of writing it. I told them, quite simply, that we were swiping left on their multiple attempts to buy us, copy us, and now to intimidate us. I made it clear that we would never be theirs. No matter the price tag, no matter the threats, I would never compromise the values I had worked so hard to build. It was a spectacular public shaming for Tinder's parent company, using their own terminology to dismantle their ego on the world's biggest stage. The lawsuit, which they thought would be my ending, backfired spectacularly. It generated millions of dollars in free press for Bumble and cemented my reputation as a leader who refused to be bullied. I had transformed the narrative entirely. I wasn't just a former employee defending a startup. I was actively stripping away the aura of invincibility from the tech giants who had once cast me aside like trash. I wanted them to know that I wasn't just surviving, I was winning. The fallout was definitive, and for them, it was humiliating. Match Group eventually dropped the lawsuit, realizing that their attempts to clone my features had failed to capture the soul of what I'd created. In February 2021, I took the ultimate victory lap. I took Bumble public. Standing on the balcony of the NASDAQ, I held my young son on my hip as I rang the opening bell. It was a profound visual statement that shattered every traditional image of what a tech CEO was supposed to look like. At 31 years old, I became the youngest self-made female billionaire in the world. The IPO valued Bumble at over $8 billion, a number that made their previous buyout offers look like pocket change. The executives who had stripped me of my title, the men who told me that being a female founder was a liability, were forced to watch from the sidelines. They had to witness me achieve a level of wealth, power and universal respect that eclipsed anything they had ever built. My revenge was finally complete. It wasn't loud or messy. It was legal, brilliant, and absolutely devastating. Beyond the billions and the headlines, the true victory was deeply personal. I had taken the darkest, most traumatic experience of my life and alchemized it into a global movement for kindness and respect. Years ago, I was forced to flee the internet in terror, hiding from threats and vitriol. Now, I have fundamentally rewritten the rules of online engagement for millions of people. At Bumble, I built a corporate culture that prioritizes mental health and offers my employees the very support and safety that I was once denied. I reclaimed my narrative, proving to everyone, including myself, that you don't have to adopt the toxic, cutthroat tactics of the Silicon Valley Boys Club to win. You can build an empire based on empathy and still absolutely dominate the market. I didn't just survive their attempt to destroy me, I used the wreckage to build something better. My journey from a humiliated outcast to a billionaire visionary is the ultimate testament to the power of living well as the best revenge. I didn't just get even. I got ahead, changing the world in the process. It is a stark reminder that sometimes the people who try to destroy you end up giving you the exact tools you need to conquer them. Thank you for following my story of reclamation. If you want to see more documentaries about the brilliant minds and epic rivalries that shape our world, please hit that subscribe button and leave a like. I'm curious, whose story of high-stakes revenge should we cover next? Tell me in the comments. Until next time, remember, your value isn't defined by those who try to take it away.